Today I want to talk to a lot of you who tend to take care of everyone else first. This is a pretty common problem. A lot of times, I treat mostly women in my clinic, and so largely it is I don't want to generalize genders here, but for many, many decades and longer, this is often a caretaking problem. And in the home place, it has often been put on women to be that person. And so I am always having conversations with nurses and teachers and mothers and grandmothers and fathers and men too, who tend to put themselves last, not even knowing that they're doing that, because they're simply used to putting everyone else first. And as a man, I can say that I have suffered the same. I'm a professional caretaker. I take great pride in being a husband and father to our kids. And I have very often taken myself and put myself last. And I've spent the last 16 years professionally trying to remove myself from last place, putting myself first. And so I want to speak to you who's constantly busy with everyone else's problems. And you're probably tired of doing this. Do you want to say hi to them?
Hi. And this has really intensified in the past year with COVID because the demands of work have increased, with people really not being able to leave work. It's at home all the time. And with having to be teachers and childcare workers and parents more than they already were. This has already been going on in lesser degrees. Use this as an opportunity to get really good at carving out time and space for yourself in order to look at what your own needs are.
So we want to say that we see you, and we want to let you know that this is an incredibly popular problem. I would call it a normal problem of today's society and many societies for many decades previous. And so we want to say it's time to start looking at what you want. And that's our recommendation for you. Mm-hmm. If you're identifying with anything we've said so far, is to sit down with a pen and paper and put at least 5 things down. What do you want? Mm-hmm. This could be something that you want today. This could be something that you've always wanted your whole life and have never really put step 1 in that direction. But if you don't get clear on the things that you want, it's really hard to just wait for them to show up. Put pressure on the people in our households to magically give them to us. Put pressure on our communities and governments to magically manifest them. Mm-hmm. This is a practice in intention, and it starts with setting very simple goals. And to be honest, the more small and specific, the better. So if your goal is to make $1 million, well, first you need to make maybe a little bit less than that on your way to making that much. So if it's about getting an extra $100 over the next 2 weeks, maybe it's selling that old carpet that you never use and it's been in the closet for a few weeks. It can be that simple.
That's our story. We just sold a carpet.
Yeah, that was my most recent example.
In addition to just beginning to explore what you want and realizing that you can't always meet your needs through meeting other people's needs. Even though that can be fulfilling and gratifying, you have to really connect with what are the things that you want just to give to yourself. Another thing is really, I'm taking my cue from Brené Brown and thinking about how we need to risk vulnerability. So if you're just dealing with all of this on your own and you're keeping all of this to yourself, it's really easy to just get in this shame spiral or feel really alone or isolated. But the moment you begin to kind of check in with others, peers, friends, relatives, and say, hey, I'm kind of struggling here. I was wondering if I could talk to you about it. You will begin to find that you are not alone, that you are surrounded by people that are feeling this same exact thing. And so once you begin to sort of expand that, you create a community of support And you can say, hey, this felt really good. Could we check in maybe next week? I want to hear, what you're feeling. Or if I'm going through a hard time, can I reach out? Take that risk of being vulnerable, even though you feel stretched beyond your means, even though you feel overwhelmed. Taking that risk can actually fill you up, and make you feel better. Something I reflect on in my experience of being a mother often was I remember going to the park with a very, very active toddler and was surrounded by other mothers. And I remember a lot of just having the feeling of comparing myself to the other mothers and thinking internally like maybe I wasn't measuring up, I didn't have the sippy cup available, or I wasn't, doing things the way other mothers were. And in my moment of just kind of beating up on myself, I remember a mother said to me, she took a risk of vulnerability and said, this is really hard. And I still look back on that moment because I missed it. I missed the cue and I was stuck in my own stuff. And I said, kind of, yeah, it's hard. And I continued to be in my own world about how hard I was feeling it was, but I was being hard on myself. And so I just think, there's been other moments in my journey of being a mom where I didn't miss the cue, where either someone extended something to me or I did to them, and those were really deeply fulfilling moments. But I still kind of look back and go, wow, I wish I could go back in time and turn to that person and say, yeah, it is really hard. Do you want to talk about it? But we're not always gonna get it, and that's okay too.
So to summarize, we want you first to make some intentional choices on paper and make a plan, and then to start practicing asking for help. And we wish you well.
Good luck.